And welcome to Meditation and Inquiry. And today's inquiry is, who am I? A juicy topic. So the question of who am I, do you have an answer at this moment to that question? How would you reply? Or what would be your reply right now to that question of who am I? Anybody with,
Yeah.
please.
Whatever I'm feeling at that moment.
Whatever you're feeling at the moment is who you are.
Yeah.
Not Norman, just the feeling. Okay. So whatever I'm feeling at the moment is who I am in this moment. Anybody else with a answer to that proverbial question, who am I?
I'm a bit afraid to answer because I feel like it's a trick question.
So that's what you're feeling in the moment. That's who you are, right? It's a trick
The
question.
trickster,
Yeah, go ahead. If you no, it's not a trick question. The answer may be tricky, but the question is straightforward. The answer is something else. You want to supply an answer right now that you?
I can't give an
Okay,
answer. Yeah,
okay. Please, anybody else with any answer to that question right now? It might not be the same answer you get at the end, but if you have something you want to articulate, please, now and later. You'll have the opportunity later as well. Yes.
I think I agree with Norman. Like when you say, "Who am I?" Yeah, I'm this and this and this and this. But then when you really get in a moment, and you just I am.
Okay.
It's not I'm not none of all of that stuff.
Okay.
Just like when you're there, that's who you really
And
are.
is that something you can live with? Huh?
Um,
Not just in a meditation group.
mm,
Okay. We'll explore that. We'll explore that, okay? We'll explore that feeling in the moment. This is who I am. Okay. Thank you for your replies. Now let's get to the meditation part. So just relax, get comfortable. Just relax. Let go of any concerns. Let go of the question and thinking about any particular response to the question. Let all that go, okay? Be here in this moment and what's going on for you. So just relax. No separation between your bottom and the cushion or the bench that you're sitting on. Just relax. And as you continue to relax, be aware of the sounds, the obvious sound of my voice, sound of a nearby motor on the fan, birds tweeting in the distance. Be aware of all the sounds. And during the meditation and inquiry, you'll be experiencing physical sensations. So be aware of those sensations. So be aware of sounds, be aware of physical sensations, and be aware of thoughts. And there is no goal, there's nothing you have to attain with this meditation. It's one of letting go, of getting. So be aware of the sounds, the sensations, and the thoughts, and let them come and let them go. You're relaxed now and you're open and accepting of all the sounds, of all the sensations, and of all the thoughts. There's no resistance and there's no attachment. Now move your attention a little bit from the sounds, physical sensations, and thoughts. Move the attention from them to the one that's aware of them. There is a knowing and awareness when a sound, sensation, or thought arises. So you're now aware of noticing, of observing. Sounds, sensations, and thoughts appear and disappear. It's as if you've stepped back and you're now watching from the background what's appearing in the foreground. A big picture. And with this self-awareness, everything slows down, and there's no attachment to what's happening. And with the slowing down of thinking, there is clarity. A sound is heard clearly, a sensation is felt clearly, and a thought is seen clearly. Clear seeing, clarity. From this clarity of self-awareness, see now if there is a space between thoughts, a space between sounds, a space between physical sensations. Look now, see if there is a space. If there is, without doing anything, without any effort, without pushing anything away, relax in the space. Relax in the space. Let the space embrace you. Become the space between sounds, between thoughts, between sensations. You're now space, and as space, expand, open up, expand space to spaciousness, vastness, immensity, spaciousness, no beginning, no end, no boundaries, no limitations. Spaciousness, where all the sounds and all the sensations and all the thoughts appear and disappear. But as spaciousness, not affected by any thought, sound, or sensation. So from spaciousness, let's inquire together, who am I? In this moment, can you find this I, this me, this so-called ego? What's there? What's the experience? To discover what we are, we have to explore what we aren't. So what is this I, this me, that most people think they are, that we think we are? And we live our lives based on that idea, that concept. Well, let's look first at the name. We are given a name at birth. And it's something we use for a period of time, and probably many of you here possibly have changed your name at one time or another, possibly a few times. So, is the name real? Real in the sense that it's not a projection. It's the experience, the direct evidence of what is right now. Mindfulness. So, can we really say the name is in any way permanent? It's just a word, a name that we call ourselves and can change with every whim at any time. So nothing real or permanent about a name. Location of birth? Okay, that can change. It's situational, it can change any time. So everything that we think is real about our young lives, is it really? And what about gender? Being born male or female? Well, we now know that's not permanent. Gender can be changed. So what can we say with any certainty that anything about our history is real? Is it possible that it's all just a fiction? A fiction that has been perpetuated as long as we have lived. It's a description. And it's necessary to interact. But it is a story. When we really look at it and break it down, it's just a bunch of memories. And memories have been proven to be suspect, to be questionable about how reliable memories are, the veracity of our memories. So how much faith do we put in our memories, pleasant or unpleasant? And we can live our lives wanting to recapture, replicate the pleasant memories and resist and escape from the unpleasant memories. Do you relate to what's being suggested? So we go through life being who we call ourselves, and the package that is I, that is me. And this is what we project in the world we live in. This is who I am. No problem. No judgment on that. That seems to be the way that we humans live our lives. With this description, this package of I am this, I am that. But today we're questioning the reality of that. Is any of it, we can say, real, true, to stand up in time? And even the question of time, and is it real, is questionable. Albert Einstein, famous scientist, said there's no such thing as time and space. Strictly a concept. Necessary, but conceptual. So we can start to ask these questions, which is self-inquiry, which you being here today may indicate that you have some doubt about everything in your life that you have believed to be true about yourself. Starting with, who am I? The bottom line. So there is maybe some concern about how I'm living my life with this package of me and the desire to find the pleasant and push away or not experience the so-called unpleasant. And that creates conflict, one opposed to the other. So there is some impetus, there's some dissatisfaction in this package of me. And then we start looking for tools to inquire, who am I? And a powerful tool for many people, one of a number of tools, is drugs, psychoactive drugs that can be used in possibly a responsible way to open up to experience something that's never been experienced before. Meditation is another tool. Yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, all of these tools are there to be used, if possible responsibly, to start to inquire, to ask the questions. And what all of these tools have in common is that the thinking process, the mind stream, slows down. And as you may have experienced during the meditation, when the thinking process slows down, then other things can appear. But we are so taken by thinking as being the be-all and end-all that we don't notice the space between the thoughts. We don't notice any of that. And that's where these tools can be helpful, to slow down the mind stream, the thinking process, and then something else can be revealed. And in the revelation, is freedom, is something that may have not been experienced before. Insight can take place. But what can happen is in this spiritual inquiry that the tool becomes the means to discover whatever I'm trying to discover. These tools are helpful to a point, but then we become attached and say, I can only experience this spaciousness, this calmness, this openness, this acceptance by meditation, by whatever tools that you may use. The revelation that can take place when thinking slows down is available in each moment. It's not dependent on any tool or situation. But the tendency of thinking is to want to understand who I am. And that understanding is cultivated through our lives. We need to understand everything that happens to us to protect me, to protect I from letting go of control. To better myself, I need to understand what's happening. So where are you now in what's been suggested? What's your experience? So we're talking about the conditioning of understanding oneself and using the how is it happening and looking for the answers there so we can feel better about ourselves, to understand. But what's being suggested and what can be experienced when thinking slows down is not understandable. It's not a context to put in. And that's the revelation, and that's the opening of discovering your true nature. So it's letting go of understanding. And that letting go, not knowing, can become fearful. It generates, or can, a lot of fear. Because all the years that I supposedly understand myself and have cultivated an image of who I am becomes questionable. There is vulnerability. And in that openness and vulnerability, there is the freedom. So, are you ready to be vulnerable? Are you ready to question? Obviously you're here, so there is that. To question everything you believe to be true about yourself. And in mentioning this, is there any fear that's arising right now in that question? So there is fear. So, as the fear may manifest and other things arise, long suppressed pain, because in that open space that is there when the thought process, the conditioning, which is the thinking process, is in abeyance, that in that space anything can arise. And is there a willingness to be with that discomfort, fear, trauma? All that needs to surface to be free of everything that has been held onto as true, to discover what you really are. And that discovery is not necessarily a one-time discovery. It can be layered, insight after insight after insight. It's as if peeling an onion. You just keep peeling and peeling and peeling away. And crying, possibly, as you're peeling. But it's okay. So there is the self-inquiry, which this is a part of today, right now. And it's ongoing. It can be, again, outside of any meditation group, outside of any tool that is believed to be necessary to pursue the inquiry. When there's been a taste, as has been mentioned at the beginning, of kind of nothingness in the moment, in that spaciousness, the taste of that is very seductive. It's the hors d'oeuvre before the feast. So the hors d'oeuvre is delightful, and it can provide the impetus for more inquiry, more questioning. So that is there. So who am I? When we let go of everything that we think we are, as we said at the outset, the name, birth location, gender, everything that has been cultivated throughout our lives as who I am, when we start to question that and possibly realize it's not true, it's just fiction, it's just a story. And stories are wonderful. We tell stories, we're all storytellers. But the very nature of a story, it's a story. It's not true, it's just a story. It's a means of communication. We have our stories and we share our stories. Nothing wrong. But there's a realization that the story is just that. It's not real. So it's not that you stop telling stories. You just see that it's a story. You go to a movie and you watch a story. And you pay, if you're going to a movie theater, a hefty amount of money to see somebody else's story, which is your story also. But again, if you look at the story, and the movie is a good example. When we watch a movie, if it's of the past, If it's a historical movie, we're taken by it, we're enthralled. If it's good, and we're totally there, whatever the period. And then when the movie's over, we realize we've been watching a movie about the past. Fine. And then we can watch a movie about the future, a science fiction movie. And again, we're taken by it. And when it's over, we're back to, oh, I've just been watching a movie about the future. But the movie, be it past or future, is always being watched in this moment, not then and not later. And this is the movie of your life. The past, the memories, the planning for the future later are all taking place now, in this moment. As Einstein said, there is no time. It's only now. And all the thoughts, all the memories about before are appearing now on this screen. And the plans for the future appearing now. So that's being mindful, that's being present with what is, realizing that. So all of that is part of this realization from questioning what we have believed to be true, in realizing what's been suggested is a different way of living. So again, getting to that question of who am I, there really isn't a specific answer to the question. There are many terms that are used about discovering what you are, that you are divine, you're the divine, you are presence. There are many spiritual terms that are used to describe something that's indescribable. It's just a word or words pointing to something that cannot be concretized or held onto. Because wanting to have an answer to the question is part of wanting to know, that I want to know who I am, to better myself. That is the paradox and the contradiction of wanting to have an answer to the question, and there is no answer that can be comprehended in the usual manner of knowing, getting the information. So again, it's not knowing, letting go of needing to know, because that's part and parcel of I, of me that needs to have an answer, because then I have control of my life if I have the answers to everything that's taking place in my life. So it's letting go of understanding. And are you willing to do that? Are you willing to play in the unknown? To not know? To not know what may be next? In this moment, to not choose what you may be experiencing, to not choose the thought, to not choose the sensation that's appearing, to not choose the sound, but just the awareness of all of that. And none of it is permanent. to start to see that it is all impermanent. So, again, we come up to, who am I? Who are you in this instant, in this very moment, as was asked before? Can you find this I? Can you find me? Where are you? A famous Indian sage of the last century, Ramana Maharshi, his entire teaching was the question of who am I? He asked his students to just keep asking the question and not seeking the answer intellectually, not looking for an answer, just keeping asking the question. And the answer will appear organically. And for many people, it provided them with freedom from the so-called self. And then one of his students, an American, went back to America, and he changed the question from who am I to whom is this happening? Same idea, but being more precise and more present. To whom is this happening? To ask the question when one is feeling elated and joyful, to ask that question when one is feeling sad and depressed. To whom is this happening? And not looking for an answer, but just letting the question sit. So who am I? In any given moment, the expression of that, of source, can be anything. Not what is expected, but the possibilities and the potential are there. When we let go of control, we let go of needing to understand, letting go of how is this happening, but just being aware of what is happening, letting go of the how, which is understanding. So where are you now? What's your experience with all that's been suggested, mentioned? If you have a question or a comment, please feel free to share right now.
In meditation, how often do you ask the question, to whom is this happening?
Are you asking of me personally?
Yeah, what's the guidance on that? If you're not looking for an answer, how often do you ask the question?
The question is not asked. When I was exposed to that teaching of Ramana Maharshi, I followed it. I kind of made it a mantra to ask that question a lot. And it was helpful. It was helpful. It was a tool, like other tools that have appeared. And what's being shared here is just the experience here. Just what's happened, if anything has happened, is being shared with you today and any time.
When you're actually meditating, you ask the question? No.
First of all, the meditation that I shared with you, the mindfulness meditation, the brief version today, I don't even call it really meditation. It's sitting. It's just sitting and being with what is. It's not based on a technique like most meditations. You're given a technique to watch your breath or whatever the technique given to get something, to become something. And here it's just to sit, to be mindful, to be aware of whatever is taking place. Not to become anything, to let go of becoming, but just to be. So it's sitting, but if I said sitting, I don't think anybody would be interested. It's not very sexy, but meditation is.
When I'm in a state of meditation, so for example, or not in a stream of thoughts, so especially like after intense meditation sessions or after ayahuasca,
Yeah.
um, I'm I'm feeling very calm and I feel relaxed and fulfilled and content, and there is no desire to do anything. It's just good as it is, just this moment. That's beautiful, and I enjoy it, and there's love in my heart, and it's good. And then there are other moments where maybe the ego is back again, and I enjoy a certain situation, and I really enjoy it. Maybe it's fantastic, I love it to do something. Maybe it's comprehension as well. Maybe I love comprehension. Now that we talked about it, should I then, would you suggest to like step away, realize what's happening, and then, let it go, or would you
Okay.
enjoy the feeling, or how would you deal with that?
Okay, there's no shoulds in any of this. There's no should of a way to be. The shoulds, many other people come up with the guidelines of being the should. You should live this way.
Hmm.
I'm not suggesting any way to live. When there is this openness that you mentioned, this peacefulness.
Yeah.
Okay. From this peacefulness, spaciousness, is everything comes from that. We can call it the absolute and the relative, but they're not separate. From the spaciousness, as you sit here now and as during the meditation when thinking slows down, there is the openness, that spaciousness, and then there is a thought, and then there is a sound, and then there is a sensation. It's not that you don't want to experience that, because then you're attached to the spaciousness, which is always there. But we're so locked in to all of the senses that are appearing, there's no attention paid to the source from which they're coming. So this is just pointing at that. Nothing has to be done about the relative unless there's conflict and going on. But to realize from where the relative, all of the senses are coming from and returning to, that is the game. That's the bottom line.
So it doesn't make me less conscious if I enjoy feelings of whatever it is, acknowledgement,
No,
love.
no. There's no wrong or right way with any of this. It's just discovering what we might call what's real. But those words are again so relative. They imply something that doesn't need to be implied. It's just pointing at something that is always there, but is overlooked. That's all. It's not I need to be this at the expense of this. It's all connected. Another Indian sage of the last century by the name of Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj said of his life, I realize that I am nothing, and that is wisdom. I realize I am nothing, and that is wisdom. I realize I am everything, and that is love. And I live my life between the two. Not one or the other, but to realize that you're the totality of life. And this is all an expression of that. Please, anybody else?
You'd be right to say that I am not permanent. That'd be an accurate statement, wouldn't it? I am not permanent.
With the emphasis on I.
Yeah, I am not permanent.
Okay.
So who am I? Obviously, I am therefore transitory. I am a passing thing. So if we're looking at me being a passing thing, how long do I last? That's my question.
Is this having to do with the next life?
No, it's to do with this hour, the next hour, this feeling, that feeling.
Yes.
It's kind of how long do I last is kind of where I'm going.
Well, first of all, it's the question of, is there an I that is lasting? You see, that's the crux of the question.
Yeah.
Everything else you described is to be alive, the awareness of all you just mentioned. But where is the I in play that says, that's my feeling, as opposed to you not having this feeling, and I feel good about this feeling, and therefore I'm superior to the I over there that's not experiencing it? Or any which way you want to play the dynamic. It's the ownership that we're talking about of all that is taking place. All that is taking place is taking place. Yeah. It is. That's life. But what we're questioning is the ownership of all that's taking place. This I that says it's me, it's mine, and I'll do with it what I want to do with it, which seems to breed conflict. So it's looking at that and questioning this I that we believe to be true. And is it? It's not about duration. Because once you start questioning seriously the whole nature of I and the structure, then the whole notion of past lives, future lives just is moot. It's gone. It's about who's living this life now, in this moment, the experience. Please.
Where were you last stuck on this question?
I'm sorry.
Where were you last stuck? Where was the in this I?
I don't know. I mean, you're asking me to pull some memory, and I'm not choosing the memories, so.
Okay.
But what does that question mean to you?
I just feel like at any moment there is always some sort of stuckness, right?
Okay, so are you stuck right now?
Always.
What do you mean always? In this moment, what's the stuckness that you're talking about?
I think that I'm always stuck in something.
Okay, so
and there is I'm always not stuck on something.
Okay, you think that you're stuck.
Yeah.
And the stuck means that you're caught in some vice, and if you're unstuck, you're going to be free and enlightened. Is that?
No.
So what's stuckness as opposed to unstuckness?
So
that's what I'm asking.
Okay.
What's unstuckness? If you're stuck, you must know the opposite because you don't want it.
Yeah, so like
you
in
want
the absolute there is no
no spiritual concept. But right now, if you're willing to explore it.
Yeah.
Okay. You think your life is stuck. You keep saying
no,
all the time.
No. It's just, I guess what I was referring to is in this game, right? Like you go in, you meditate, and you're looking at who am I, right? and usually you come to the first question or the first answer you come into, and I felt like that answer varies, right? That first answer of who am I varies in meditations, and and I guess I was curious to see what was that last answer that you got that was kind of natural, because to me, like, the last one I got was this. It's like this observer almost, right? Like this thing, and then I'm like, okay, also an illusion. So it's
As you mentioned, when you ask the question,
just.
be it in meditation or just in your daily life, and not seeking an answer, then yes, there is no specific answer that's going to appear all the time because you're looking for the answer. You're looking to understand the answer to that question.
I'm not looking to understand. I'm looking to. It's more of curiosity of where I've been identifying with as I'm walking in the street sometimes.
Okay.
So I'm just kind of looking to see where I'm hanging on throughout the day.
Where you're hanging on to what?
Throughout the day.
But what are you hanging on to?
Um, Sometimes some sort of trait, like I'm a good person,
Okay.
or little things like that, right?
Little things that we believe that we are.
Yeah.
Am I a good person? Consequently, I'm a bad person when things
Sure.
crop up. So the opportunity when there is the mind stream of I'm a good person, I'm a bad person, to whom is this happening? So the suggestion is to experience this story, to see the story, and we know the story because we talk about it. You just shared a story with me. So to be aware of the story, that's mindfulness, to be aware of the story. And if there's enough space to let go of the story and be aware of the physical manifestation of that story in the moment. What is happening physically? The story is about something, but physically is what is taking place in that very moment, and the opportunity to bring the awareness and attention to that. And that is the exploration, that's the investigation. What's it feel like? Where is it? And in that exploration, something can take place.
Okay. So you feel like now you are not stuck to anything?
I'm not sure what the question is coming about, unstuck. Yes, there are emotions. It's not that you don't experience. If anything, there is not experiencing life through a filter, to be open to what is taking place, which means all the emotions can take place, including doubt. But as I just mentioned, to be aware of the story and to see it and to bring the awareness to the manifestation as it's taking place in the entire being is, if you want to call it stuckness, is to way is an opportunity to experience it, to accept it, and move through it. Yeah. I mean, everything it's experienced. It's often said that prior to whatever shift can take place regarding this whole package of I, you chop wood and you carry water. That's a Zen saying. And whatever shift might occur, you chop wood and carry water. We're not we're not talking about firecrackers and and extraordinary bells and whistles, because what you are is already there. It's just letting go of what obscures it. That's all. To question, to question, to question.
What what is the point? You spoke about peeling the onion to be. I think you I'm not sure how you express it, but to be more free. So when we are aware, when we are awareness, and we notice emotions, thoughts coming up, but we have that distance, that space, and we are the space. And so what would be then the point? What would be then be the point to peel the onion, the layer by layer, to really do self-inquiry and understand more, where does that emotion come from, where does that thought come from, to what is it attached, and whatever childhood trauma, belief systems, and all these things. Where's the point if I'm able to be aware of everything and just kind of like pull myself out of the story and out of the process
Okay,
that
first
goes
of
on?
all, we're talking as if there's an I that's aware of this. Okay, okay. So when we start to question the I that's aware of this, we can discover that there's just awareness. There's not an I that's doing anything with awareness. I is an expression, is something that appears in awareness.
Hmm.
Okay? So the, the question of point or meaning, there is no point or meaning. The meaning or point is based on the I that wants to understand, that wants to benefit and understand what I'm doing is going to bring about something in my life. So that is questionable. There's the opportunity to see, okay, question of what's the point of this? What's the meaning of this? That applies to the I that's looking to understand the
Hmm.
point of doing all this. So when there is a discovery that there is no inherent permanent I, then there is no meaning or point to better this fiction.
In my own experience, it was actually helpful to realize where certain things come from, certain fears, maybe of rejection or whatever, to realize, well, there's this belief underlying, and then this belief, and this belief, maybe there was childhood trauma, another trauma, and to understand that was actually, to me, I felt it helpful to then be able to let go and realize it's just a lie, it's not true.
Okay.
Is that?
Yeah, I mean that's a tool that you used. I mean, psychotherapy is based on going back to your childhood and understanding all these traumas that we carry with us. And I mean, that's a tool, that's a way to deal with it. But what's being suggested here is the manifestation of that trauma from childhood is appearing in the moment, and the opportunity is to deal with it in the moment, as been suggested. To
Mm.
realize the story, which could be, oh, this is childhood stuff and so and forth, but to really become aware of how it's appearing in that moment, because that's what we're talking about. Awareness, mindfulness, moment to moment. Nothing wrong with any of the other therapies that are being offered. This is just a different approach.
Could this not be also an idea to bring this together? Like, I think I do really like also to, like, for me, it's like to share emotions, like a way to meditate, because I think it's like we are humans, and that's totally true. Like, stories are in this world, and maybe real, maybe not real, but they're in this world, and like the line is through the stories are our emotions. And I do also totally understand, like, we just stuck in these emotions really often, and like to understand the system of humanity is like, I think we do have a big picture, and we can color this picture how we want to. Like, I think it's like, no, I think I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but like, I like to let all open, and to let like to like we are humans, and we, I think we need sometimes to understand, and I can feel through sharing, and I do totally understand also, like in childhood, well, it is coming, and I think maybe it's really also important to to take this story and to work with these emotions, and then to go together like to another kind of meditation. Like, I think we can be such a creative creature. And yeah, I do like this idea, like to be understand and to find these emotions and then bring all together and to share that. And
Yeah,
like
sure.
another, like I am not sure, maybe I'm just
Yeah,
a
yeah.
little
No, I'm,
naive,
I'm,
I'm
I'm not
just
denying the
basic.
humanness. I'm not suggesting don't experience emotions. That's
Yeah.
not being suggested at all. It's to look at this I that is believed to be controlling the emotions, choosing the emotions, and what to do with the emotions, and everything that. And once there is the questioning of this I, then emotions can be, if nothing else, more unfettered, more available, without the history of needing to repress an emotion because it brings about unhappiness, but an openness to receive it all.
Sure.
And from that can come creativity.
Mm.
Sure.
I mean, the creators have talked about getting out of the box, right? Thinking out of the box. And out of the box is out of this mind stream. The conditioned way of experiencing the world is out of the box. And that's what's being suggested. Out of the box is beyond the I and the me. Something else is available, and from that comes innovation.
I think also to add to this, it seems, and correct me, in this idea, but here we have the absolute also with it's this like I am, yeah, I am African, this idea, and that's the absolute, which is very an Eastern perspective. Here in the Western, we have this idea of psychotherapy and like working with emotions and trying to figure out with the relational, right, with the relative. I don't you think that there is some sort of merging of these two worlds that's like the psychotherapy and this thing coming together rather than it is all we're all perfect and one and we can
Well,
just experience that way.
isn't the merging you're talking about the perfection coming together?
Yes.
Okay. So
Oh, so I was just adding that there is a
I
lot of
don't
space to
understand
going
if there's a
back. There is a
question.
lot of space here in the relative world to work with emotions to go to a psychologist, because
Of
some of the
course.
great Zen masters died alcoholics, right? They died of they did horrible things. They were samurais. They killed people. So I think like there is definitely this balance of Western Eastern and like realizing the absolute.
Well, using the totality of life does not exclude any part of it. So psychotherapy is an expression of that, as is everything else. It's not just one expression, but all. It's not saying psychotherapy is bad and this is good, because good and bad are not even part of it. It's just saying that it's all part of the play. And if you want to use psychotherapy, use psychotherapy. It's nothing wrong with anything. That we're just looking at it from a different perspective that we may have not considered. That's all. Something is being pointed at. That's all. And it's not a matter of this not good and this is better. And realizing that all perspectives are just a way of talking about something. And one perspective is not any better than any other one, okay? Because then you start to, oh, this is the right way, and you make it into a belief. And then you concretize it and you say, I'm going to live my life this way, and then I find people that support my way of life, and therefore I'm excluding the people who don't support my way of life, and we've created a division. That I am better because I am this way, and you are not because you don't support the way I am. And there's where the violence begins, and we see what the world is like with this division going on. Please, Nikki.
Um, I don't really know like if I have a question or if it's I just feel almost like I have like anxiety with
Yes.
this. So I'm just kind of talking. Um, like when you said when we get into the space and we just like kind of are in that space, that is that or what I understand that's kind of then that's who I am is in that space. But then that really makes me kind of like it's makes me not sad or but for my future because now I try to think okay well who am I you know I and everything that I want to achieve in life and I want to do this and I'm working towards that and so then I understand that doesn't define who I am but it is still my reality in that moment like that's kind of what I'm choosing to be doing.
So there's some fear about if I live in this space, then I don't know what's going to happen down the line. All these things that I need to choose about my future is questionable, and this brings up anxiety. Is that what you're more or less what you're saying?
Yes, and also not that I want to just not I want to plan things and I want to
Okay.
become whatever
Yeah.
I want to become.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of ways to look at this. This I that is planning, oftentimes if we really look, we see that the plans for the future are based on the past. They're just projections. There's just a movement from this to that. And it can create anxiety because we don't know what's next. But we use the past as the springboard to what's in the future. So oftentimes there's so much in the future that is from the past, okay, so to speak. Another way is from this calmness, this spaciousness. There is something fresh and new that can take place next that we have no conception of. Because if we're taking from the past and projecting it, then we feel good to some degree. There's anxiety, yeah, because we don't know what the future holds. But from this calmness, and whenever you've had to make an important decision in your life, when it comes from calmness, from possibly meditating and coming from a calm and open space, does it seem like it's more appropriate or there's more comfort with what's going to take place coming from this calmness, not coming from anxiety? What's your experience there? But coming from a calm, meditative place about the future. And the so-called spaciousness or this openness can bring about. It's not knowing what the future is, but being okay with it, whatever the form it takes, which may not resemble the past at all. So that's a couple of ways of looking at that.
Okay, and that helps, but I still want to identify with things. Like I want to be like, "Oh, I'm Nikki and I am this and I and
Okay, that's fine.
but that's not real."
That's for you to question. Okay? If that's your reality, that's your reality. What you believe to be true is what's true for you. Don't have to change you. Yes, please.
If there's no I, so everybody's just kind of matter, right? Why do we respond to different experiences in different ways? Even if they're just kind of passing emotions, why does my I versus your I respond to experiences, even though it's not an I? Why do they respond to those things in different ways?
Well, I don't know the why, just the what. What is the response? What is the response in the moment? Because the why of why am I experiencing it different than him or her, there's really no answer. But it's because the why is getting into the cause. And there is really no single cause for what's happening. So the why can be put in abeyance, and the what is what's taking place in this moment. What am I experiencing? Regardless of what somebody else has experienced. Because it's only my experience that is real in the moment. I don't know what somebody else has experienced. It's my experience. And the opportunity to realize what the experience is, to be aware of it.
But what if you know who you are?
What do you mean?
Like, I know who I am. I know what I love.
Okay.
That's why I don't have a question who I am. I have other like anxieties and fears like Nikki does. But what if I can answer the question I am, because I do have hobbies and passions and something, and I can say that if I love doing something and I give my heart towards this skill or feature, I know that I am at this like in the present moment this person. That's why if I do know the answer of who I am, but I still experience like fears and anxiety of what's gonna happen in the future, then how to react calm?
Well,
how to stay calm?
as been suggested already,
Mm-hmm.
when there is the anxiety and the fear, which is part of the package of who I am or
Right.
I think I am, then the opportunity there is to bring the awareness to that anxiety and that fear and the story about it, and to bring awareness to the physical manifestation of that in the moment. And that's to be aware of it, to inquire, to investigate the fear, the anxiety in that moment. Okay? And so that opportunity is there to move through it. To move through it. It has nothing to do with your passion, your art, your creativity. It's the conflict that can arise from if you're holding on to this belief that you are that, and that's fine, you are whatever you believe to be. But then the anxiety and the fear is inherent in that package as well, and are you willing to be with that? That's part of the package. Please, anybody else? Nikki.
So, if we, like, if I think, okay, this is who like, my reality now is this, this, and this, and I don't like this about my life, and I don't like this, and I want to change that. Okay, then, and then if I think about my future, or if someone asks, well, how do you want your life to be? What would you like to do? What would you like to change? If we understand that all of these things are not who we truly are, because it can always change, should we even ask the question of who do I want to be? Because
well, first of all, you see that change is always occurring. It's not that you have to be in control of change. You can see that change is always there. I mean, world is changing. Everything changes. In meditation, you experience sound sensations, thoughts. Are any of them permanent? Okay. So when you see that so-called in a meditative state or in meditation, inside out, it's the same. Everything's transitory. But the awareness of everything that's changing is unchanging. While everything else is transitory, impermanent, that awareness is. So that's what's being pointed at. If you believe you're making in control of change, okay. If that's your belief system, believe it. But when you decide on a change and then it doesn't benefit you, then what happens? Then there's anxiety and conflict. I made the wrong decision. But when you take I out of the equation and there's just a decision, then whatever takes place is okay. Please, anybody else?
Can you still help me with how you perceive the relative and the absolute? Because it seems like a lot of your answers come from the absolute. But in the relative, I do have a body, I can go work out, I can get in better shape. But your answers, are you just trying to elucidate the absolute? How do you perceive these two things?
Okay.
Can we first clarify what is relative and what is absolute?
Yeah. First of all, I want to gauge everybody here. We've been here for over an hour. Now, we can explore further, but if some people are feeling that this is enough and you need to leave, and I understand if you're still enthralled or you still want to participate, not necessarily verbally, but hear these questions because they pertain to everybody. So, shall we go on? Just a nod, yes, yes. And if you need to leave, please feel free to do so. Okay, so the question is the relative and the absolute.
I think he had a question first.
Okay.
What is the absolute? What is the relative? How do you define that?
I bet you're regretting taking this class.
In meditation, in your experience in meditation today or when you meditate, and there's been reference to the calm, open spaciousness, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, for purposes of communication and discussion, let's call that the absolute, okay? Okay? And then in this absolute spaciousness and calmness appears a thought, appears a sound, appears a sensation, appears a taste, a smell. All the senses appear in this absolute, if you will. So there is the appearance of all the senses that tell us we are alive. So that's the relative, and there is the absolute, if that helps. Not separate. The wave is not separate from the ocean. The ocean is. The wave is an expression of the ocean, not separate. Just an expression. And its totality of the absolute and the relative are not separate. It's all part, all the same. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, please. Again, it's the experience, not the definition. Absolute and relative are just terms to help understand. And there's nothing wrong with understanding any of this. I'm not saying give up understanding. Understanding is important. But when it comes to what you're seeking spiritually, if you're on a spiritual search, what's suggested is understanding will take you so far, and then if there's a willingness to let go of understanding and be open to the unknown. Okay? Please, anybody else?
I think he had a question.
But it was the same sort of
The
relative.
same?
It's the same. Okay.
You want
The other thing, yeah. I mean, I was just alluding that a lot of what you're channeling right now is kind of this absolute, but it makes sense now in the sense that people they're kind of asking from that perspective.
Well, we live in a so-called relative world. In most of our lives, we live in this relative experience. And then in the spiritual search, that's not enough. There is a questioning of the relative world that is to some degree unsatisfactory, or you wouldn't be here today if you were fine in the so-called relative world. So the spiritual quest is usually based on some dissatisfaction with the so-called relative world. And that's the impetus. And that's all that's being suggested is that what is being sought, and that what is being sought is here right now. Give up the searching, because the searching is to try and understand the absolute, and I'm saying it's can't be understood.
I would like to relate to Nikki's question, and I wonder, when I'm in a state of inner peace, there are no desires, and it's just good as it is. And so then I wonder if that state is awesome, and I think it's awesome, and then I wonder, why should I plan anyway? Why? I mean, and when there are desires coming up, I should do this and that. I want to be this or that. Then I sometimes think, oh, maybe that's just again to pleasure my ego, which is still there. And then when I try to breathe in and come back to the now, it's all good. So I mean, although I had a great business career, we're very ambitious. Right now I'm sitting here and I feel like if I just breathe in, everything is perfect. So I'm a little bit also confused or lost. So I mean, should I just breathe in? Or should I still make plans? Should I still... So I think there's a little bit of confusion or
Okay.
insecurity. Although the moment is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and I'm not telling you not to make plans or any of that, what you should or should not do. All that's being suggested is that in questioning who is making the plans, and then in questioning who is making the plans, the plans can affect and take place in a different way. Might be unexpected, not knowing. Because in knowing the plans and expecting it and wanting to be a certain way is this so-called I and ego that wants to be certain of what's going to happen in my life.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's understanding my life. So when there is that serious questioning, then there can be an openness of, I don't know what's going to take place next, and to be okay with that.
To not take control.
Yeah, control is understanding everything that's taking place for me.
Control is also a tool or a certain thing that I can do to increase the likelihood of an outcome, which I would like to achieve.
Which I would like to achieve. It comes back to the same thing. I would like to achieve based on how it can better me. But again, the question is, who is this me that wants to be bettered? That's the crux of it.
Yeah.
Are we willing to look at that and willing to give up this me that needs to be sure, to be certain of what's going to take place for me, to be in control? Because the not being, when we think we're in control and we're not, there's conflict.
So the point is surrender, and all of the things that will happen and happen, accepting it, like accept what is going on without expectation, without worries, without anything.
The first part, I didn't quite get the first
Sorry.
part, please.
So the thing is surrender.
To
Surrender.
surrender.
Sorry.
Okay, surrender. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Surrender.
No matter it's happened because as decisions we have to take to improve or whatever, all of the ways are good, right? So none of, so for example, this way, both are okay. don't take decision about the future what we should do.
It's not about don't do anything. There's no don'ts in this. It's looking at it from a different perspective, a different way. Surrender, acceptance of what is, to be aware of what is, to be mindful, the awareness of what is. In seeing it, in seeing it clearly, as in the meditation was pointed at, clear seeing, clarity. In that clarity, you don't have to let go. It is part of clarity. It is the surrender. It's letting go. It's not, I have to surrender because he said you need to surrender. That's just a term, okay? It's like attachment. I need to be non attached. And then it becomes something, I need to be this way. I need to surrender. No, no. These are just terms pointing at something. When there is the clarity of seeing it and seeing it's not permanent, it's just part of the package. And to see that, that clarity is the surrender, is the letting go, is the non-attachment. Not that you have to do something,
Yeah.
okay? There's no don't. Don't experience this, don't feel this. No, no, no. There's no don'ts or should here. It's just a different way of living life. A sigh of relief, or uh, well, it's been very stimulating time. So let's conclude with some quiet time together, okay? So just relax. Just relax your mind and your body. And I say let go or surrender, but it's not something you have to do. But if you see that whatever's appearing, whatever object is in awareness at this moment, and not holding on to it and seeing what else is appearing. So while the sounds and the thoughts and the physical sensations come and go, if that's your experience, isn't there awareness of what is changing? So that awareness, unchanging, the isness, is what you are. And it's not something that could be held on to, because the thoughts about wanting to stay there are coming from that, are appearing in awareness. No separation. So relax and rest in the awareness and the expressions in awareness. Namaste.